You're listening to B2B Tech Talk with Ingram Micro, where we share topics that will inspire business growth and help you stay ahead of advances in technology before they become mainstream. This episode is sponsored by Ingram Micro Xvantage, the game-changing platform that will transform your business potential and reshape how customers see you.
Welcome to B2B Tech Talk. Today we're joined by RedNight Consulting and managing partners, Chris Ploessel and Charlotte Ouwehand. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having us.
You bet. Okay, I have lots of questions for you both.
Heidi.
First of all, tell me a little bit about your business and your practice, because a lot of the audience might be TrustX partners and they know who you are, but there's also other partners out there who don't.
You want to kick it off?
Yeah. So RedNight Consulting is a managed service provider. We're based here in Southern California, and we work nationwide. And we are really focused on being a cloud-first partner. And I think that's a more common terminology nowadays, but when we started in 2015, it was a very unique and odd thing. We'd get all kinds of crazy looks. What do you mean cloud only? What does that mean? And we've really aligned ourselves with small business, SMB-sized customers, typically less than 200 employees kind of size. And we've really also aligned ourselves with a specific stack of products. So on the cloud side, that would be Amazon Web Services or AWS. So we are a little unique in those ways.
Fantastic. And you started in 2015. How did the two of you come together and partner in the business?
Mm-hmm.
We met basically at business school, more or less, but it was specifically an event that I had organized because I had figured out that the son of Hugh Hefner went to Chapman University, to the film school. So I had organized with a bunch of different offices inside the school to have him come as a speaker. And Chris was in the audience attending, and I rallied a few people for dinner afterwards. And that's really the first time we spoke to each other. And right off the bat, it was about entrepreneurship and starting a company and what kind of ideas and what could we be doing. So yeah, that was basically the kickoff event of meeting, and
It's fascinating.
yeah, conversation hasn't stopped.
And how quickly after that conversation did the company start?
4 weeks.
Yeah, pretty quickly. I would say within the rest of that year, so within 6 months, we were up and running and had a small, tiny office somewhere, and set Charlotte to task to figure out all the operational goals of the company. And I went out trying to find clients that would buy from us really quickly and just hit the ground running really, really quickly.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that matched between us really well and where it felt right to at least try it, because at the time we sat in a Starbucks in the very beginning, right? Like classic, let's, figure out what we can do. I said right out of the gate my expectations of, I want to build a real company. I don't want to work out of your bedroom or anywhere else, right? Or forever in a Starbucks. I want to have a real team, hire people, and I have a, certain financial goal in mind, and we need to rent an office. So we went to task really quickly, and within 3 or 4 months, we had rented an office that felt very large at the time, and now it feels really small, and we've expanded multiple times, and, now we're already looking into the future for the next one. So, yeah.
Well, that means you're growing, so that's very positive. So congrats on that. What is the secret to your growth?
My first reaction to that is that most companies that get started, the mistake that partners or multiple founders, in my opinion, make is that they try to do it with people that are very similar to each other, right? It's like, my buddy and I are starting this company, but often why people get along or are fit is because they're very similar, right? I think we do get along, but we have very opposite skill sets and interests. So right off the bat, we weren't trying to do the same thing and solve the same thing and touch the same thing. And I think that's a big success part to our story, that we don't have a lot of overlap and stand in each other's way.
Sure. So you have complementary talents, not similar
Right.
talent.
And what I just said a minute ago, right, about what's the goal, where do you want to go, what do you envision this is going to be, and at the end of the day, a lot of people want to build themselves a job, right? So they basically have a one-person company, maybe have one or two people that help them. And we were very clear on, no, we want an actual team with people and employees. So I think those are two big pieces. Do you have something to add?
Yeah, I think the other thing, which would probably segue into one of the conversation points you want to talk about, is I was very specific about having one specific stack of products. I'd kind of come from this industry and had been at places where you say yes to everything, and then the phone rings and somebody needs support on something. It's like, wow, who built this? Who is that person still living here? How do we troubleshoot a Sonic Wall, a Fortinet, or whatever the product was that they're calling about? And I was very specific that we wanted to do some research, pick a product stack, and stick with it. One firewall vendor, one AV, one cloud vendor. And so we've been very successful of saying, hey, we're only a Meraki partner, we're only an Amazon partner. And if that's not the right fit for you, then we might not be the right partner. Let us help you find a partner to send you over to if you don't want to be all cloud or in our stack. And that has helped us say no well to customers, to clients. We have an internal project that's been going on for about 6 months now to name all of our clients, not customers anymore. So we're trying to be diligent about saying client. All of our clients are kind of fit in our stack, and then we've said no to the ones that aren't the right fit and help them find the right home, not just turn them away and kick them back out to the street, trying to help them, but having all of our clients having the same network technology, being implemented the same way, training all of our engineers the same way, allowed us to scale very quickly as well.
There's an art to saying no, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
There's because you don't want to offend someone when they're coming to you for help and you say no.
Yeah.
So what's the secret?
Well, I think the secret is to have conversations like this to explain, hey, we've been able to scale so fast because we have this box we try and fit our clients into of a certain size, of a certain product stack. And if those aren't the right fit for that client, we try and find other partners through the TrustX network or other ways to find them the right home. And I think it's education, having an educational tone to it and explaining why we selected these products and how they fit together, and how I think our end clients really enjoy knowing that when they call, every single person who answers the phone is going to know their technology and be able to help them on that first call, not have to find Sally that implemented the firewall or whatever. So that's helped us grow, but it's also helped us see a certain type of clientele.
And 100% of the time, people are grateful for that.
Yeah.
So every single time that conversation happens of, we're probably not the right fit for you, this is why, and here's a better alternative for you or a better partner for you, every single time people are grateful for it, because immediately they understand you're honest with them. Immediately there's trust for the next time something is in the realm that we explain is where we play.
Sure.
All right. So it's always a success to say no.
Yeah.
And works in the long run. So
Transparency. Yeah, it's really great. You mentioned TrustX. Obviously, TrustX is one of Ingram Micro's premier communities. What has your relationship been like with Ingram and TrustX?
I think it's been really great so far. It has definitely gotten us very connected to the group that we're in. I think we're trying to be very diligent in attending all the meetings and actually also going in person multiple times a year. It has definitely now led to multiple occasions of giving projects back and forth, consulting each other around anything that regarding the business, right? And so now we have people that, I've talked about in past meetings, like, oh, we have a really good lawyer for this. We have this. We work with an accounting firm. So I think it's been a treasure trove of information and connections. So that's been really good.
That's great. And plus, it's a give-get, right? You're receiving, great tips and things from other people, but you also can give some cool things that you're working on, like the exchange program that I would love for you to talk more about, because I am so intrigued at how this came about. Maybe you can describe it a little bit and tell me how successful it's been.
Yeah, that is my favorite pet project. I love to talk about this. So we don't really have an official name. We're still working on the official name, on what the title of this exchange program is. But it came into play because of the TrustX meeting in Phoenix, and there is a European team, specifically in the German-speaking region for Ingram, that is trying to set up basically a comparable group of business owners under the TrustX system. And they came out to multiple events to see what's going on here. So that was one of the occasions where I met Christian, who is one of the partners of IOK in Germany, a tech company there. They have about 50 employees. We would also probably call that a managed service provider here. And all the most important business deals happen at the bar.
Of course they do. Of course they do.
So over 2 good beers in Arizona, I kind of jokingly said to him, I had already thought about this previously. I was like, would you be interested in an exchange program where we send texts back and forth? And he had, either it was the bar or it was my convincing negotiation skills or both, then he immediately said yes. And then I wanted to make sure that he knows I'm serious.
Yeah.
So on my next trip to Germany, I showed up at the front of his door.
Nice.
And was like, I'm here. Let's do this. How are we going to do this? What are
Free-site survey.
Free-site survey, yes. Introduced myself to everyone and said, I'm serious. We're sending someone.
Okay.
So, yeah, basically what that looked like is we send one of our technical staff members from our team for 2 weeks there and a little bit of vacation after. To be exposed to what they do and work with a team, fully immerse themselves in how they run their business. And then they send someone back to our office for a couple of weeks. And it's been fantastic. Those 2 techs that kind of became buddies, right, because they were the first to do that exchange, are still in touch on a weekly basis. And the German counterpart had such a good time that he already booked his next vacation with his wife for this October to come back.
Wow.
And we just decided who our next tech will be this year, who's probably going in May or June. So it was a success, so we want to continue it.
Hey, I don't think we've told the tech who it is. You could announce on the podcast who our tech is that's going.
So the next tech to go.
Oh, the big reveal.
The big reveal specifically saved for this podcast.
Yes. Oh my goodness, I'm honored.
So George, if you're listening, you're next.
That's awesome. Okay, so this sounds like an incredible program, but what has been the result? Like after the exchange, what happened?
So one of the requirements to both techs on both sides was that they have to sort of document their experience and hold a team presentation, right? There has to be a little bit of a deliverable of what you need to do. So I saw the presentation, of course, on our side to our team from our employee, and it was basically a summary of specific processes that are different. One example that really stood out to him was that they don't really have project managers for their projects, so they're really tech-driven. The techs kind of do all their own scheduling, run the entire project by themselves, and we kind of do it differently. We have a project manager that runs all of that. So it was a lot of examples like that, structural. From the tech side, they obviously have a different tech stack of what they sell and what they do, the kind of projects they do. So it was really eye-opening to both sides, and it was summarized in that presentation basically on both sides. And then, of course, a lot of cultural differences.
Yes.
So that was a big part of it. But I think for me also, not being a U.S. citizen, being imported myself, I've lived in multiple countries abroad, and I know what benefit that is just to sort of be a well-rounded person, to have interesting experiences, to be in an environment where no one speaks your language necessarily on a daily basis. And I think that's a fantastic challenge, right? So it's also a little bit through the lens of a benefit for the employees, right?
Right.
Having something that everyone on the team looks forward to, has a story to tell. I mean, that's a lifelong experience that no one can take away from the people that get to go anymore, right?
Yeah, it's a great perk.
Yeah, it's a very unique opportunity for them. So it's not just for us through the lens of find their secrets.
Yeah,
tell us the secrets.
And
we're gonna
espionage.
Yeah, it's not from that perspective. that's sort of an additional part, right? But it's definitely through the lens of how can we create a really unique experience for employees.
Yeah, and it just enriches everyone, right? When you experience life through a different lens, and I think we could all benefit from that. Now, having done this, are you presenting this back to TrustX, what you've done and how? Because I'm telling you, this is so unique. I've heard a lot of stories about what the communities do, but this is very unique. So what are you going to do with this information?
We've definitely talked about it. I talked about it even before the first person went, and I kept telling our TrustX crews, like, we're really doing it, really. And then everyone said, okay, tell us how it went. Yeah. Kind of like, like maybe it like falls apart or something. And then I went back, I was like, it was amazing. And then the first people were like, oh, okay, how did you do that? Could we be a part of this? So there's definitely interest. I think it is a little bit unique in the sense that you have to find someone that you just vibe with, right? At the end of the day, you have to have a counterpart that you trust and have a good relationship with. And I think...
And sees the value.
Right. Yeah. And that's just where we got lucky that I met Christian, and it was just a really good relationship right off the bat, where I had that feeling of, he really wants to do that as well. So that's a little bit what you have to...
Was it, I'm German, you're German, let's hug? Was it that?
Well, that doesn't happen with every German, I mean. I think you kind of know, right, is that, the right person for that kind of project. But maybe this is the recruiting call. Christian knows that ideally I would love to add more people to that system so that it's not just a two-way exchange, but maybe it's a triangle at some point, right? And maybe it's a partner, TrustX that is in New York. Or
Hawaii, Australia, the Bahamas, any of those partners, call us.
Give us a call.
Yeah.
Anything exotic.
Yeah, I like it.
So, and, I can only encourage other partners, even domestically, right? Like, we just had a tech just basically for a job for a client go to Colorado last week, and he was so excited because he had an afternoon to just, go for a hike and do something else. So we see it over and over on any scale that our staff is super excited to travel, to have the opportunity. We always encourage them to, stay the weekend.
Yeah.
Like, the price for the flight is the same.
Right.
We don't care if you add a couple vacation days at the end.
Nice.
So, even if TrustX partners domestically want to do it, I highly encourage that kind of exchange. It's really interesting.
I think it's unique, too, that I at least have had 5 to 10 conversations with people of like, you need to have a passport if you're going to work here. Start now. Because people just don't even have passports because they're not traveling internationally. So I feel like we're kind of like pushing people to break out of their bounds a little bit and jump out of the nest and try new things.
Well, Tiffany Bobe, I don't know if you know her, she wrote the book, The Growth Experience. And in her book, she talks about you can't have a great customer experience if you don't have a great employee experience. And it sounds to me like you guys have really focused on creating that really good employee experience. And it seems like it's paying off.
Yeah, I think so. It's one of the... luckily many things we agreed on when we were still sitting in a tiny Starbucks, that we, from the get-go, agreed we want to build a company where people like to come to work, right? We have no cubicles of death. We have, moss walls and Lego cubicles, and that's just like one example of needs to be a place where people like to come to work. And there's a lot of effort sort of behind the scenes that's being spent on that. It's a constant conversation, right? What's exciting to people. You can't make everything exciting, right?
There's still work.
There's still work to be done. But that's an important part, right?
Isn't it?
Like, we spend so much time at work. It's a huge commitment, and no one wants to go to a place where their soul goes to die.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it sounds fabulous. We might have to take a video crew there, take a look at your office and see what you've done with the place. This all sounds amazing. Let's talk about business for a minute. How are things going? What are you seeing, and how is AI playing into what you're doing?
Yeah. How are we growing? I think we're on a pretty steady growth curve. I think, through COVID, everybody needed IT. So we were on a rocket ship for the last couple of years.
Sure.
And things seem to have continued coming out of COVID for companies growing. I think this yo-yo of people, you're in the office, you're all working at home, you're all coming back to the office has pushed a lot of server refreshes, data center refreshes that we were getting pulled into. I think we've had a great relationship and have been very lucky with our partnership with Amazon Web Services, and that's driven a lot of growth for us as well. And a big chunk of our business is recurring revenue between MSP and cloud and Office 365 licenses. So it's very stable and growing. We've been on the Inc. 5000 list 4 times. We've submitted for maybe the 5th time in a row this year, which would be pretty amazing. So thank you. And I think that's, the revenue growth is there, right? So there's lots of business out there to be had still. AI is a constant conversation with our clients. I'm amazed these days that I can even still find a client where I can impress them with what ChatGPT does. Like there's still people out there that haven't even just poked at that for free. And I think now with Copilot and a few of the other things that are coming down the pipe, I was actually having a conversation with Mark this morning about it, Mark Hassan from KME. And I don't think the magic is in selling the license. I think that's a magic trick. Look, you turn this thing on, it's $30 a user. We make $3, whatever, 10% of it. It's not a moneymaker. The magic is in having a business practice around implementations, training, showing the business value of how you're going to use it. What am I going to do with it now?
Governance
of how you're going to use it. Yep. And I think that's going to be the future for a lot of folks. I don't know that it's in our core wheel. Our first inkling is when there's something new, it's like, nope, that's not in our box. But there's so much demand and curiosity about it. I think trying to figure out how to plug that in is going to be important for continued growth. And, I don't think AI is going to be taking over the world or having, any major incidents anywhere. I think it's going to be one of these tools that allows business to amplify what they're already doing. And it's going to work like a magnifying glass. If you have a bad business, it's going to amplify that. And if you have a good business, it's going to amplify that. And those folks that you're paying $500 or $1,000 an hour, like a top lawyer or a doctor, it's going to enable them to be even more productive and produce even better results faster.
Mark, as we were talking about Mark referred to AI as like a time machine, giving you more time back, being able to use it to speed things up. Hans is doing really great work with some nonprofit schools in that area as well. It's really exciting to see how Ingram Micro is really going all in on, especially around Copilot and helping partners today start the conversations with their customers around AI. But you're so right. I still talk to people who go, what do you ask ChatGPT to do? Like, I said, oh my gosh, I've seen 5 million prompt sheets on LinkedIn. I said, just go on LinkedIn and type it in. You'll get all the information.
I had a really interesting conversation with one of our clients, actually. He owns a business where they have a lot of data for modeling customer demand and purchase. I'm going to be a little vague, but customer demand and purchasing. And he said, hey, we need to back up this database 5 different ways, and we need disaster recovery. And I said, wow, what is in this data? And he said, well, it's our secret sauce of, what customer demand, and we give them feedback by region, by this, by that. And I was like, have you used ChatGPT at all? It sounds like something it would do for free. He's like, what's that? And I said, okay, give me, what would one of your clients ask of you that they would pay a very large subscription for? I just typed it in there and spit it out. And it was giving us tables and comparison charts and analysis by region, by model of forklift, by all this different stuff. And he's like, oh, maybe my data is not so relevant anymore, right? It's not so valuable. You could just see in his eyes, like, my business model of what I think my value is has just shifted. And I think there's going to be a lot of that happening in the industry.
Sure, I agree. But it's exciting.
Yeah.
It's all things. It's exciting. It's scary. It's like a good Disney movie. Right?
Yeah.
Since we're close to Disney. It's like a good Disney movie. Oh my goodness, you guys have been such great guests, and I am excited to share your stories about how to say no, because you stay focused. There's been lots of books written about if you focus on the one thing, you're going to not only be more efficient, but your company will grow faster. So well done there. And the to-be-named exchange program with the to-be-named George, who's going on the next trip, That is,
Make sure your passport doesn't expire.
yeah,
anytime
that's right.
soon.
Check your passport.
That's right, George. I love that name, George. My son is George. So well done, and way to think outside of the box to do things differently. And I hope others will follow suit. But I love it when I hear good stories like that. So thank you, and best of luck in your business growth. And I hope invite you back and hear more of these stories.
Next time, we'll tell you about our solo offsite days we're planning right now for our team in Q3.
Okay. All right. I'm going to have you back. We're going to do this. And you'll give me a reason to come back here to Southern California. So
Perfect.
I'd love to.
Win-win.
Yeah, win-win. Thanks so much, guys.
Thanks for having us.
You're welcome.
Impactful global engagements, iconic entertainment experiences, and memorable networking opportunities. Be part of it all at Ingram Micro One 2024. You've been listening to Ingram Micro's B2B Tech Talk. Thanks for tuning in. If you like this episode and you want to continue the conversation online, use hashtag B2B Tech Talk.